Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Tigers Talk Rugby. Before we get started, once again, I'd like to thank Tiger Vision for letting us use their facilities and their equipment. So on that note, I'm Ethan Richards.
And I'm CJ Bakel, and today we have a pretty good episode for you. We're going to talk a little bit about this last weekend's Davenport-Clemson matchup, and we have a special interview with that as well. And then after that, we're going to talk a little bit more of the MLR signings that have been happening as of recently.
Yeah, and then we're going to round it off with a little bit about the Premiership Rugby going on in England. So let's get to it.
First, again, starting off, Davenport-Clemson. Final score, 45 Davenport, 29 Clemson. I think the score might have suggested like a more one-sided game, but I thought it was pretty good. It was definitely a higher scoring game than we thought, and it was definitely like I don't know how to say it, not like a shootout or like a back and forth type match, I guess.
Yeah, so from the perspective on the sideline, it was a relatively like Davenport scores a try, Clemson scores a try, Davenport scores a try, until there was a moment in which Davenport put 3 in a row in like 5 or 6 minutes or so.
Yeah.
It was real quick, really well put together, and that really like is what caused Davenport to pull away. But it seemed relatively consistent on both teams in quality of play, especially the kicking on Davenport's side. Their ability to receive kicks and continue to return kicks was quite impressive.
Yeah, Davenport's 10 was really good at kicking.
Yeah,
He was really good at kicking.
and their 15 was a very solid kick returner, and he was able to put the ball back up in the air when he needed to, or he was able to run that ball down.
There was one point in the match where it seemed like the ball was going back and forth and back and forth. And it's like, oh my gosh.
There was a moment in which it was ping-ponging, and it was the funniest part about that to me was when I was on the sideline watching, I was looking at all the people in the middle of the field, and at some point, like, everybody just kind of stopped moving and like let the people who rotate in the back 3 spots do their rotations, but nobody else moved because they knew the ball was just going to get kicked back and forth, and it was quite entertaining to just see like people look up at the ball and be like, all right, and it's getting kicked back, and it's getting kicked back. It was quite funny.
Because usually you see either like in international rugby or typically in a match, after like the second or third kick, somebody kicks it into touch.
Right.
But for this one, nobody wanted to kick it into touch because all the balls were landing just outside the 22.
Right.
So anything that would have gone into touch,
it wouldn't have been
either tough to get it into touch, or it'd been out on the full. So it was just going back and forth until somebody finally, I think it was Dossie, finally kicked it back far enough over their 11.
Yes.
Where he
they had to chase it down and
fell into the 22. There was a decent chase down, and then he had to kick it out. So
yeah, and I will say
it was a very long string of kicks.
Yeah, I will say kudos to both teams on that, because it's impressive being able to rotate the people to be set into the back 3 for those return kicks continuously like that. And so it was quite good work on both Clemson and Davenport to be able to sustain that like 10 or 12 kicks that it seemed to have been.
Yeah, but again, like we said, overall good match.
Yeah.
Davenport again is the 8th team in the nation.
Ninth place.
Ninth team in the nation. So having putting 29 points up and getting a bonus point against them is a very good showing in my opinion, because again, it's a thing to look up don't look at the result too heavy, look at the process, because like we went from 55-0 to 45-29, being able to put 29 points on on Davenport from not being able to put any points up on Navy. So I think that was a good sign. It was a good growing moment. And we scored, or we earned our first point in the Mid-South for however long it's been.
Yeah, one thing that I quite enjoyed was the intensity in which Clemson came out onto the field with.
Yeah.
I think the first try happened within the first 5 minutes, and it was a Tigers try, and it was awarded to, I believe, Arthur. No, it was
Dawsey.
Hunter Dawsey. You're right.
Yeah.
It was
friend of the show, Hunter Dawsey.
Yeah. He brought it down the sideline and was able to work the ball around the edge.
It was a good set piece. So all week we had been working on this certain set piece, and we had been using it from that exact spot that the scrum happened. So when that happened, we were like, okay, guys, it's like a no-brainer. Let's try it. Let's try to do this, and it worked. So it was a good set piece.
Yeah, it was exhilarating to watch, and it was cool to see some of the energy that came out of that off the bat.
A lot of guys were really, really excited about that.
Yeah, one of the things, though, I will have to criticize is I felt like there were a lot of mistakes in the basics. There were a lot more drop balls than what traditionally has happened in the last few games, I feel, for the Clemson Tigers.
I think there was a lot of basics kind of a little bit on both sides that were being mistaken, because their hooker, he was not able to throw lineouts whatsoever.
Yes, yeah, I think the basics struck in different outlets.
In different
places. I think the basics in which Clemson was struggling with were more impactful to the score than the parts in which Davenport were making their mistakes in.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's again, it's every day is what the basics have, and it's not easy to come out every day, week in, week out, and do the basics right, and that's why teams like Life and Cal and Lindenwood and Navy, St. Mary's, those teams are the teams that currently they put they can do the basics really well, and they do the basics consistently, and that's that's a point in which I think everybody in the sport needs to work on.
So, a couple, good pointers. We had 3 people score their first tries last weekend. Yeah. We got Arthur Doyle, Markel Thomas, and Chris Orich. They all scored their first try, and I was very proud of them. And then Dawsey scored one as well. And I think that was that it for scoring?
I believe that was, well...
No, there was one more.
No, there was one more. I'm blanking.
Yeah, I'm blanking on who did that. I scored it.
I'm not sure who scored that one.
But it was, again, having all those guys, come out and score really good tries. Chris's was fantastic, and same with Markel. Both just breakaway tries, just running down, all put up, they backed themselves, all kind of individual effort.
And it showed a good boost of athleticism that Clemson does have as a program, and it shows that it's not a scholarship program. But they're still able to find and involve and build players that not only put things together as a group and are able to score a try off of a strong set piece with Hunter Dawsey, but also individuals who can understand how to beat the man on the edge or beat the man on a breakaway and score the try on an individual level as well. Yeah. So kudos to them. That was good.
It was good. Now, since we're talking about tries,
yes,
we had one controversial try.
So, in my eyes, to explain what had occurred, there was a grubber by a Davenport player to himself from the 5-meter line into the try zone that he dove on and was awarded the try. Although after it had occurred, he looked as if he had messed up. Like you could tell it registered with him that he felt like he had made a mistake, which is why it's almost it's interesting. It's a controversial in the sense of if he didn't intentionally drop the ball onto his foot, which clearly it didn't look as if he did, then how do you award that as a kick when it was unintentional? That is traditionally considered a knock-on. And so the question is why was he awarded a try for an unintentional kick off of a dropped ball rather than the scrum going the other way? I know there was some discussion with a touch judge, although obviously I do not know what was said. I don't know if you heard it. You would have been a little closer.
I was on the sideline when
but
that happened.
It's confusing to me as to why. First off, somebody would never grub to themselves on the 5 meter on a breakaway where there's really not much to defend. Or much defending them because the pass was made to him and he had the open field in front of him.
Yeah, it was like he was going straight through a gap. It kind of looked like he, was fumbling with the pass a little bit, dropped it a little forward.
Yeah, it looked like he had tried to pull it into his chest and it fell out from his chest and it bounced off his foot, which is traditionally, if it's not an intentional kick, refs will consider it a knock-on because it does come off the body initially as a drop.
I will say it is definitely frustrating that happened because I think that was a big turning point because the Clemson boys would have been, they would have been within, 7 points at that point in time. They would have been within, 7 points. And I think that would have made it a little bit closer a game. Guys, the guys would have been like a little bit more invigorated and then wanted to go down and score again. So maybe, this is all speculation, but I'm just saying if it weren't for that try, maybe we would have had a different game. Speculation.
Well, I mean, for sure, anytime there's a controversial call with a try and points are going onto the board because of it, it makes it more impactful to the outcome of the game, clearly, because points are involved.
Yeah.
And maybe, who knows, maybe that try, if that didn't exist, the score would just be 7 less than what it was. But on the other side of the coin, like, there's so many different things that's one event impacts mentally, physically, like skillfully. It's a toss-up. It's one of those controversial calls that I'm sure players on Clemson will be talking about for years to come in their match against Davenport, in which they were slided a potential scrum rather than being scored on and causing a change in the play. So, and a change in the momentum, absolutely. So, yeah. On that note, I think we've beat this game down quite a bit.
Well, we might have, but we have an interview with a Davenport player that we took specially after the game.
That's right.
So we will shoot you over to me, sideline, pitch side, for the interview with Enrique Carmona.
And I'm here with Enrique Carmona from the Davenport University team. He's a winger. So thank you, Enrique, for coming out.
No, thank you guys for having us. It was a hard game. Your boys came up and they showed up to play. Definitely, they turned up and they gave us a good, hard game.
So overall, what do you think went well, what didn't go well? What do you think you could improve on?
All right, so our focus for this game was our defense, and we didn't quite accomplish it. I mean, it was hard because your boys showed up. They run like strong lines, and they were just like keeping the intensity up, and we couldn't like turn up, and we were disappointed with that. But rather than that, I mean, we came up with the win, and a win is a win. So
keeping it pretty modest. So your season so far is going pretty well. You're 1-1 now, 2-1.
2-1-1.
2-1-1.
Yeah, we tied against Notre Dame College over there, and we beat Penn State and I mean you guys, and then basically we just want to finish inside the top 10 by the end of the year.
I mean, you're 8 right now, so it looks like that's pretty good. Yeah. So what are your expectations for the rest of the season?
We only have one game left, and it's home against Lindenwood, which is the number 3 or 4 team of the country, and we pretty much want to give them a hard game and try our best and hopefully get a win.
Okay, last question I have for you is, what is your favorite rugby memory?
It's just playing with the boys at Nationals for sevens, and we got 3rd place, and it was it was a hard game, and it was really fun to play.
All right, well, appreciate it, Enrique.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, so that was a pretty good interview.
And you know what? Also, so he talked a little bit about the Davenport situation in the D1A in the Mid-South. I would like to say they lost to Navy. Life played Navy this last weekend. Final score was 24-19.
Wow.
Life won. That was a close match. Really, that might put a little bit of ripples through the D1A.
Yeah, probably the closest game Life's had
in a while.
Yeah, I can't wait to follow Navy for the rest of this year.
It'll be very interesting.
And into the next few years, really. Especially if Gavin Hickey sticks around. Clearly, he's done something to this program to bring them up into the upper echelons of play.
And really back them.
And I'm excited to hear more on that.
So, enough collegiate rugby.
Yes.
Let's get into the professional stuff.
Yes.
Because I'm excited for this MLR season, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so
It's so close, but it's so far.
Couple months still. One of the things that we haven't talked about that is really big is the amount of signings and imports
and transfers and all that stuff.
Yeah, the MLR's brought in. So of course, a couple weeks ago we had that interview with Jason Dahm on the homecoming weekend for Clemson's alumni events. So we did hear about that transfer to Atlanta. But what we didn't really talk about was some of these other pickups by Atlanta. They had Harley Davidson as well.
Big fan of Harley Davidson.
Glendale, yeah. So that's 2 players that they just took from Glendale that were starters, really.
Yeah, I think that might hurt Glendale a little bit because not only are they 2 starters, they're 2 young players.
They are young. Both of them
Jason
are not too far out from college.
Yeah, both Harley Davidson, played for Life last year, and then Jason is 2 years out.
Yeah.
So he's 2 years removed from the Clemson side. So it's pretty, it's pretty close. They're young players and they're impactful players. So I think Glendale or Colorado now, my bad, are going to be.
That's one thing to talk about. I don't think it. I think Colorado's brought in they've made so many selections this offseason for a lot of names that are. I don't think they'll be hurt with these takes. I think they will be different. I think that they've brought in a couple people from places like Life University or St. Mary's that can fill spots on the field and at this or force players who are in those positions that Jason and Harley are leaving and making those positions more competitive.
Okay.
Because they bring in more skill to the club.
Yeah, they definitely went out and tried to sign a lot of guys because I'm seeing some guys that played for Hawke's Bay, Life, San Diego, the Panasonic Wild Knights, and Digby Ioane. But also, again, like I said, a lot of key players leaving, like Dylan Takaido Simpson. Last year, he was really crucial for Glendale's success. Mm-hmm. So I'm seeing him, DTS move to DC Old Glory. I don't know if that will hurt Colorado a lot, but because I think he was such a good player for them.
Yeah, at the least, this Colorado Raptors side is gonna be a different team.
Yeah, it's gonna be a different team.
It's amazing because with this rebranding comes a new team. And so it's kind of a good refresher for program as a whole and the team as a whole, and is that now it's developed and it's all coming as one new unit almost. It's a whole. It's like getting a nice cold glass of water. So, yeah, a couple of other international pickups that I find interesting in a way that I don't know if it's good or if it's almost too much, is some of the pickups from New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans. Okay.
Yeah, so they've
I thought
only.
you were going to take a different segue route with that.
No, actually, I was thinking about it, but to me, you look New Orleans Gold. You see, formally, what I am aware of. There's only been 5 pickups by New Orleans, and only 2 of them are American or from a U.S. program.
Right.
So I like the idea of pulling in some international talent to help increase the level of rugby within the U.S. But as soon as you start filling more spots with international players than American players or North American players, in some cases, because there is the Canadian team, you're starting to lose growing American rugby in a way, and to me that feels like what MLR is looking at is it's a professional league in North America.
Yeah.
It's a professional league developing North American rugby, and as soon as you start losing a lot of American rugby players and filling it with international rugby players, then you're not completing that objective.
So when you talk about that, I'm thinking of they're bringing these international players to make the game so much more competitive, so that Americans who come into the side have to play at this high level, so that when you get those Americans who play, they're playing at a high quality level of rugby.
Yes.
Alongside these internationals. So you look at the New England Free Jacks. They brought in 13 players. 12 of them are international.
Yes.
Coming from everywhere from Samoa to Fiji, Tonga, Ireland, Canada, Japan. It's from everywhere. So I think that having that diversity of talent and coming from all these international places might be it'll definitely help raise the game's the MLR's game, the quality.
But it doesn't raise American rugby quality or North American rugby quality, which is where I struggle with finding the balance. Because I'm content. I love watching good rugby. I love watching great rugby. I love watching phenomenal rugby. But I also love watching North American rugby grow. I want to see North American rugby be able to go into a World Cup and win 1, 2, 3 games and
make it to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and maybe a decade from now we can make the change that Japan has made.
Yeah.
Make the difference that Japan has done. And so I struggle to see why so many international pickups is going to benefit North American rugby when you are releasing players who are American grassroots players who are trying to get better at the game and grow the game for the sake of North America in order to pick up and win with international players.
I guess it's a fair argument, but it depends on how you see it.
It's a fine line. It is a fine line. And at the same time, we are going into the 3rd season with 3 new teams for this league, and maybe what I don't know, because I don't talk to the people who run the MLR on a regular basis, is maybe what I don't know is that they're bringing these players in so they can establish good rugby before they try to do that. And maybe that's a step that I'm not aware of, and I want to give the benefit of the doubt because it's like this league is come together really well.
Yeah.
It's clearly going into its third season is the most successful American professional rugby league we've had. Period. So I can see its success coming from the route that's been taken.
And then not only that, but being able to be a league that is able to like draw or be a draw for some talent, like big names, especially like we'll hit on in a second, but like some of these like huge names that are being able to pull in, like I think that it might be a good move to establish yourself as a league and be like, all right, we are going to be, we might not be the best, rugby like league in the world, but we're going to establish ourselves as a good one. Mm-hmm. So, like it's established as a good one and then just build from there. And then being able to attract this international talent and these big names and recruit them might, be like, hey, maybe this will bring in more revenue, more draw to the game, and then improve like the spectatorness of the game and draw in like more people to come watch. Because like look at Seattle Seawolves, they sell out their stadium every freaking time.
Yeah. So with that, like, but before we get into some of the advertising and the ability to watch the games, you mentioned that we're going to mention a couple big names that were brought in. So to me, the biggest name of recent, I think Ma'ananu is probably the biggest name brought in.
Oh,
at this point,
hands down.
That's a pickup that I think will change how San Diego play, like 100%.
So Ma'ananu, again, he is kind of on his like last couple legs. He's probably going to retire soon. He's getting a little old, but having an All Black who has won World Cups, who has been in the conversation for best player in the world. He's been in the conversation for one of the best centers ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like having him come over to San Diego is insane. And then alongside of some of the other signings that they have coming in from like Biarritz, Saracens, Hurricanes, like this is like that's insane. Being able to take these names over from these bigger names is pretty cool to see. And like growing or like watching, being a rugby fan, and then seeing that news that Ma'ananu was signed to San Diego, it's like holy crap! I want to see him in play one point in time.
Yeah, that was one thing. Like I never thought I was going to be able to see him play live, but he plays in the United States, and you can find some cheap tickets using Spirit. So
yeah, it might not.
Love
trip to San Diego might be on the books for the Tigers Talk Rugby boys.
Oh, absolutely! I would love to go out and do a show out on the West Coast, and maybe we could try to contact one of those teams. So,
hey, you never know.
Yeah, I would.
But
so
another big name, Matteo Bastaro. The beast,
yes.
the man, the myth, the legend.
You love him.
I love him. Growing up as I lived in England for a little bit of time. So when I was first getting into the sport, I remember watching France versus England in the Six Nations, right? Mm-hmm. Back in 2012, 2011-ish area. So when I'm watching those games and I see this huge man, this large human being at center, just crash balls and just dominating it, it's like, holy crap, who is this guy? And then you kind of get into it a little bit, and it's like, okay, that he's, Matteo Bastaro. And honestly, I think that might be a big signing for Rugby United New York.
Yeah.
Maybe it might be more impactful than Ma'ananu in San Diego. Because San Diego is already a good team. They're finalists.
Yeah,
Last year they were finalists.
Rooney's making a name for themselves.
Yeah,
this
Rooney,
year.
They might be putting themselves ahead.
Yeah,
because having him and Ben Foden, two players that used to play against each other back in the day, that's probably an interesting take.
And especially
good teammate.
The reason why I say Rooney this year, Rugby United New York, they have the chance to make a name for themselves is because this year, with the split into the East and West divisions, they have 3 new teams to play. They have 3 teams that have not seen in a formal professional setting.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
in which they're about to face off with almost week in, week out, with how the schedule is set up. And so if they can come in and be like, we're the old boys, we will dominate, we have the experience in the MLR over you, and that's what's going to take us above and beyond. It's going to be exciting to watch them put that question to rest.
So from there, looking at also Seattle, I'm going to switch it down to Seattle. Looking at Seattle signings, do you think that they could win it, go for the three-peat?
Honestly, I don't even think Seattle needed to sign very many players to be competitive for another win.
Yeah.
I think they've got a great system built. They've got great coach set up with their whole entire coaching roster, and they do it all right. Their advertising is strong. Their support in the stadium is almost sold out every single game, every home game they have, and they play good hard rugby, and that's why they're able to take over every year. And I think I like the signings that they've made. They've picked up players from the Cheetahs and Ulster and those but I don't think they needed it, which is exciting because now it's like, how much better are they going to be?
Well, I mean, the West, it just seems like every team in the West has a shot this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, in the West, it's a good point that they might not need to be they don't need to sign big name players because they already have the talent and the coaching.
They have a core and a group.
They have a good core group. Like, why would you mess that up?
Right.
Like, if you have a good core group and they're playing well together, I think it's you shouldn't mess with it.
Yeah,
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And even with losing a couple guys to some of the other teams, I don't necessarily think as a whole that's going to hurt the whole.
Yeah.
Hurt the group. They're a very unity-based program in my eyes.
So now going to another West team, a Western Conference team, Austin Herd. Do you think that they might actually win a game this year?
Oh, wow!
Do you think they'll be improved?
That was a hard shot right in the gut.
Well, I mean, it's tough because last year, I guess they didn't get the results they want.
No,
I think that what they really need is just to find a groove and stick with it.
I mean, they've lost about 10 guys.
Yeah, they lost a lot of guys.
They've lost a good portion of their rosters. So they're gonna be a whole new team, and whether that team is gonna be good, I can't give you the answer. I want to see a good Austin Herd. I want them to be able to compete and take over and show up and be like, hey, we might not have done well the last few years, but this is our year. This is the year of the Herd, The
year of the Herd. I like it.
So, but I mean, once again, they've made so many changes, and I believe they have a new coach now as well. Do they not?
I believe so.
Yeah. So who knows what's in store for the Herd? So
can we spend 2 seconds talking about Houston SaberCats?
You may spend 2 seconds talking about it.
Seconds. So SaberCats, a little biased, but in terms of their signings, I don't know how they're going to show up this year because they lost Matt Truville, who last year was more like a player coach, like a player recruiter coach. Mm-hmm. He's been a solid, leader on the team, and now he's retired. And I think he's taking now a coaching role, which, as a player, I think that might hurt the team because he was a really good player. But as a coach, he's a very good leader. So who knows? My biggest thing is that they lost Joshua Vesey. Holy smokes, was he a player? He was So he was suspended for a decent amount of last season.
He was.
But in the games that he played, he was running over teams. So I remember watching Glendale versus Houston in a very good tight game, and he was like lightning in a bottle that game. They passed it to him. He was just trucking people. He was stiff arming them. It seemed like whenever he got the ball into space, he was already gone. It was insane.
Yeah,
He's a good player.
For me, the biggest thing I see, the biggest pickup to me is Zach Godfrey from Leicester.
Yeah.
I think that'll do some good for the program.
Yeah, get a nice English boy in there. Bring him down to Texas.
But also, like I wouldn't say Zach Godfrey's like a oh my gosh sort of name, but he's
Leicester
consistent.
Tigers.
He's consistent. He's not a poor player. He's not like you're picking up so he can't make it onto the Leicester roster, so he's gonna come play in America sort of thing,
Yeah.
It's a name that I think is gonna hopefully provide some consistency, because that was my thing. I didn't see consistency with the SaberCats.
Yeah, that was very true.
And so hopefully a name like that will bring in some consistency.
Yeah.
Is a question. So or maybe he'll become inconsistent with the program. I hope not.
Oh, I hope not. But like we've been saying, we're thinking that this next year is going to be looking really, really good.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. So yeah.
So shifting points. Now we're going to talk, or shifting leagues, I should say, going across the seas. Mm-hmm. The Premiership. What are your takes? How is it looking from you? Because you're kind of the Premiership expert over here.
Well, nobody's undefeated.
Yeah.
So I like the sound of that. As a Bath fan myself, I like it when nobody's undefeated, because right now it's been a mixed bag at the beginning of this year.
The first couple of weeks I saw Bristol, the results that Bristol was having, and I'm like, dang, they're doing pretty well, and then they lose a game, and it's like, oh.
I mean, they're still doing great. They still have the highest points differential in the league, and they've still I believe collected all the points they can have as 3-1.
Really?
Almost all. Close. They've got 14 points in the league, so that would be not quite all the points then.
Yeah, not quite all of them,
so,
but still
but
enough.
Up there, plenty of points, and so them and Northampton have kind of been leading, but
yeah, the Saracens is third, but that's like a big asterisk right now. Take that total and minus 35.
Ouch. No, my thing is with some of these teams is you're going to see shifts in this table as the international players trickle back into the Premiership.
Yeah.
So as soon as you see
the Anthony Watson,
and
Sam Underhills.
Clearly we named the Bath players because I'm a Bath fan,
but Owen Farrell from the Saracens,
there you go.
And Maro Kojic.
You've got there are plenty of the
you have to clerk for sale.
Vinipolas, both of them make their way back in, and you get those names back in. Saracens will be a different team.
Well, I mean,
without a doubt, Bath will be a different team. And even with the few guys that they have that are going to be coming back, it'll be a different roster. So even they're sitting towards the bottom of the pack because of their points differential, and because they haven't gotten all of their bonus points and whatnot in all their games. But once those players start making it in, so I'm very excited for this year, not in a way of for my team to be the best team in the league right away, but because it feels tighter this year as a whole. You've got so many teams that are 2-2. You've got and no team's undefeated, and there's only been 4 games for everybody. So it's either 3-3. It's 3-1, 2-2, or 1-3. So everybody is a game away from the people 3 in front of them or 4 in front of them. So the jumps in the standings right now could be immense, which I'm ready to see. I love to see a shakeup, and I'm always satisfied when Saracens is not at the top of the table.
Well, I mean, they're not we know that this year, due to their salary cap violations,
Yeah.
they're not gonna they cannot be at the top of the table this year. So it's definitely a year for some of these other teams to pop off and do really, really well.
Yeah, I intentionally threw that Saracens coming in there in hopes that you would do that, so thank you.
Yeah.
Saracens, I don't know how they made a mistake like that. Salary cap has been so important in professional rugby for years now. So like the fact that you can turn around and be like, oh, we're over our salary cap.
We're over our salary cap by $2 million.
Yeah, by £2 million. Like, what? Okay, but
Do you think that they were maybe we could get away with this? They kind of looking around
could have been.
Maybe we could get away with this, but I don't think it's tough.
I don't want to assume ill, but it could be that way.
But
it'd be like that.
I mean, Saracens is such a good team. You were rattling off names. It's Owen Farrell plays for them. The Vunipolis play for them. Mauro Toje plays for them.
It's. I mean, you look at it and you're like, it makes sense to why they went £2 million over, but also at the same time, why would you let yourself go £2 million over, knowing that you had all these big names on your roster, and that's gonna get checked. People are gonna look at that.
You are in the spotlight.
Yeah, you've put yourself in the spotlight with big names, so it is what it is, I guess.
Quick hot take: who's winning the Premiership this year?
Well, I'm just gonna say Bath.
Oh, come on.
No, 100%. I could see Bristol doing it.
You could see Bristol doing it.
Mm-hmm. I think they've their first 4 games have been good, and their loss was not a bad loss. It was I think they and it's I don't think they correct me if I'm wrong. I do not think they have a lot of players that they're missing due to international level.
Yeah, you're pretty factual in that statement.
So, to me, I look at them and say they've had 1 loss by 5, and it was at Harlequins? That's a question. I'm not going to say if it was or not, but every other game was a win. They destroyed Bath in their game, and so they can show that they can put the points up and dominate when they need to. So as long as they're not riddled with injury, I think they'll stick on this trend. I think they will still beat other programs. But at the same time, I'm a Bath fan. Bath's going to win the Premiership. They're going to win it every year for the next 20 years. Screw anybody that says anything otherwise.
Gosh. That was probably the most biased statement of anybody
You're dang right.
Sports media, period.
No. I mean it with good humor. They definitely haven't been playing the cleanest games recently. Especially, they've been taking unnecessary cheap shots at players in, like this past weekend when they got the red card for an elbow to the neck. It was so unnecessary. It was that red card didn't need to happen at all. Bath is lucky that they were awarded 2 yellows again, for the other side, but they didn't they don't need to be doing that. They shouldn't be needing to do that. And clearly with their win this weekend, it was against Northampton, and it was a 9-point victory with a red card. And Northampton's currently sitting at the top of the table. Yeah, so they don't need to be making those decisions, those errors. Yeah, keep your cool, play the game. That's all I have to say on that. But that's my little rant about watching that Bath game this past Friday or Saturday morning. So.
All right. Yeah. Well, on that note, we would like to
wrap it up.
So thank you again, guys. Thanks for listening today. Like always, again, we're on Facebook and now YouTube. So if you're going to leave us some comments, leave them in the comment section. We'd like to hear your hot takes. Who do you guys think is going to win the Premiership after 4 games? Who do you think's the biggest big name signing for the MLR? And what's your most exciting thing for coming up for the collegiate season as well? So give me the answers to all those 3 questions.
And I want to add one more on there. Who do you root for? What is your teams? I want to know what teams, because I would love to be able to talk about your team.
Let's hear what some of your teams are. Because like if we hear a lot of rugby ATL, I guess we'll maybe talk a little bit of rugby ATL.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let us know.
So on that, thanks again, Tiger Vision. I'm Ethan Richards.
I'm CJ Bakel.
And this is another episode of Tigers Talk Rugby.
Watch some rugby this weekend, please.